If you want to find the work that suits you best, then you'll want to watch this video all the way through to the end, because I'm going to give you the first step to doing that and explain how you can get the other steps for free. One of the most challenging things that you're probably facing today is to know with a high level of certainty that the work you're doing is what you ought to do. That is, you should be doing it and not something else. If you're average, then you probably feel that you should be doing more, that you're capable of more than what you're doing. If you're above average, then you're likely to feel it even more. And that's because your capabilities exceed the cognitive demands that your work places on you. Before we go any further, however, there are a couple of things that you need to be reminded of. The first one is that work is good for you. You may feel that it's a necessary evil and that if you were independently wealthy, then you wouldn't have to work at all. But the truth is that you need to have something that you're working towards. And that goal can't be a life of leisure. A sage once said, "The trouble with doing nothing is that you can never stop to rest." Rest is only rest when you have something to rest from. The second thing is that work doesn't have to be a drudgery. That is, there's such a thing as enjoyable work. For many people, it is a drudgery, but that doesn't mean that it has to be. In all probability, the drudgery comes from the lack of intellectual challenge. In other words, it's boring, it's monotonous, and it lacks meaning. I often wonder how some people stay awake at work. Cashiers, for instance, who scan barcodes all day long. If that's your job, then I hope that you'll look for something better, because you're more capable than that. In the days before scanning, cashiers had to memorize the price per pound of all the fruit and vegetables and then pass a test before they were allowed on the register. When customers presented their items for purchase, the cashier would weigh the item, punch in the price per pound or per unit, and then the register would calculate the actual price. Nowadays, everything is done for the cashier. It's also remarkable to me how many cashiers I've met who don't know how to make change. If an item costs $10.15 and I hand them $10.25, they don't know what to do. Years ago, when prices were actually on the items, I used to play a game with the cashiers. If I had only 10 or 12 items, I'd add them up in my head and then hand them the exact change at the same time that the register told them what the total was. It used to freak them out. Some of them anyway. Now the thing is that when day in and day out all you hear is beep, 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 you're not really getting any intellectual stimulation. You're not doing anything that will keep your mind active. And that's why work seems like a drudgery to you. It would be to me too. If you have a job that's nothing less than drudgery, you may be wondering how you ended up in it and why you're stuck in it. No doubt, one way that you ended up in it is that you needed a job and you took what you could get at the time. Like most people, however, you've probably stayed there too long. The thing is that it's easier to go to work every day than it is to look for something else. In fact, it takes some planning, discipline, and a certain amount of courage to break the status quo and change jobs, or to strike out on your own, especially when what you do pays the bills, has good benefits, and gives you a reasonable standard of living. Even when you do think about leaving, you wonder what you'd do. Would you look for something similar with better hours or more pay? Would you look for something different that would enable you to keep your pay and benefits? Usually people stay where they are because they can't figure out how to get something better and keep what they want to keep. Not only that, but research has shown that people are less likely to change what they do if they risk losing something as a result, even if there's a likelihood that they'll experience greater gains for doing so. And that's why most people put up with the jobs they have. Even though they feel an inner lack of fulfillment, They're unwilling to change what they're doing in order to get it. Along with that, however, is the inability to figure out what it should be, and that's where I can help you. A number of years ago, I came across a 3-step process for how to determine the kind of work that you should be doing, to find the work that suits you best. It took me about 30 minutes to complete the exercise, but I'll tell you up front that hardly anyone I've ever given this to has been able to complete it. Those who have found it to be very powerful. What are the 3 steps? Well, in order for the exercise to have the maximum benefit, you have to complete each one without knowing what the next step is. And that's because if you did, then it would prejudice your answers and weaken or distort your results. To look at this another way, it's impossible for you to do step 1 if you already know what step 2 is. And it's impossible for you to do step 2 if you know what step 3 is. Believe me, if it was as simple as that, I'd tell you all 3 steps now. But I'm a psychologist, and I know how questions can bias the answers, even when you try to be objective. And so because I want you to get the results that you deserve, I need to personally manage this with each person. Here's the first thing you need to do. Get on my email list. Follow the link in the description to get the free ebook, The Importance of Why. It's an excellent, thought-provoking read. After you get confirmation that you're on my list, then reply to the first email that you get, or the first one that you read, with the answer to this question. What are the 6 to 10 things that you've done in your entire life, from as far back as you can remember, all the way up to today, that gave you a personal sense of satisfaction? In other words, what things have you done that made you feel especially good about yourself? I will review your answers and give you the second step for free. And in case you're wondering, I won't charge you for the 3rd step. I'm looking forward to hearing from you. And by the way, please like this video and consider sharing it with someone who would like to find the work that's best for them. And subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already. I'm Dr. Bruce Hoag.